kind of with everything right now, it's hard to answer that question because I don't know what a normal transition would have looked like with schools going fully online right before spring break and our spring seasons being canceled and working from home a lot. It's certainly been a unique transition. So Bruce and I were able to meet over Zoom or talk on the phone quite a bit in the spring, I guess, to start that transition. But it's just different. For our non-contact and our limited contact sports, they have the opportunities to engage in competition. Early on in the summer, we restricted that to just within Boone County. We have recently sort of allowed for the expansion into some neighboring counties in mid-Missouri, but still really restricting it to the mid-Missouri area. For those non-contact and limited contact sports, it's exciting just to get that opportunity, especially for our spring sports like baseball that lost their season. It's exciting to give them an opportunity to engage in some level of competition. With our contact sports, though, our football, basketball, soccer, wrestling, they are still restricted to participation in smaller, stable groups. And so, they're not at a place where we're ready to let them compete against other schools. But again, our district championships and conference championships and state championships, those aren't awarded in the summer. They're awarded in the fall, winter, and spring seasons. And so our bigger goal is protecting those. So we have those measures in place that restrict what the contact sports can do. But yes, for our limited and our non-contact, we have some programs that are playing, and it's fun and exciting to see that. Yeah, so August 10th will be the first official day for fall sports, and as of right now, it is our plan to proceed with our fall sports seasons as they are scheduled. But also, we know that things are probably going to be different. We will certainly be following the guidelines that are provided for us by the Boone County Health Department. And we don't know yet, sort of beyond August 24th, what those will be. But we are anticipating that there are things that we're going to have to put in place, whether that's spectator limitations, whether that's sort of like, it's incredible to think of, but things like the pregame coin toss or the pregame handshake, and certainly the postgame handshake, things like that are probably not going to be happening, and so we have to figure out, what are other ways we can display our sportsmanship and handle those types of things. But there could be an expectation that when that coaches are wearing masks, or when kids are on the bench or the sideline and they aren't actively participating in a competition that they're wearing masks. We don't know the answers to those questions yet, but these are things that could be very real possibilities. And so we're kind of working on contingency plan A, contingency plan B, C, D, E. And as things evolve and as we learn more and as we receive, further guidance, we'll roll those plans out. But we're planning on having our fall season with practice starting on August 10th. As of right now, on July 2nd. We'll see how things evolve. Well, for all of these, it would always be nice to know sooner rather than later. But it's such a fluid situation that it kind of puts us in a weird spot, because on the one hand, we certainly want to communicate, plenty of information and plenty of guidelines. But it's also, if you communicate something out too early and the realities on the ground change, and then you have to adapt, then you got to make sure that the revised plans are clearly communicated and people are aware that those are the revised plans. And so it just becomes tough. I think for us, it's going to be really important, knowing that practices begin on August 10th, that we at least communicate some sort of initial expectation prior to August 10th. I know the Missouri State High School Activities Association has a COVID task force. And they are going to, I think they're hoping that by mid-July, they can send out like a position paper or a position statement to all the member schools with guidelines and recommendations. And so we're waiting for that. And when we see that, we'll study it and consider it and compare it to what the county health department is advising. And my hope is that, again, sometime before August 1st, or excuse me, sometime before August 10th for sure, we would have something out there that will be a plan, with the caveat that it's fluid. I mean, it can change on any day depending on the current circumstances. Yeah, I mean, certainly for the health and safety of everyone, that could have had contact with a positive case, we will have to communicate that. But we will also have to, protect the privacy of our students. FERPA and HIPAA and those types of things require us to do that. So if a situation or a case does present itself where a student athlete or a coach does test positive, the school district has established sort of a protocol or a response mechanism for how to handle that situation. And so it will involve working with the health department to conduct contact tracing and sort of make an evaluation or determination of who are the individuals that student or coach has had close contact with. And then notifying them from there, going through a self-isolation protocol, and those types of things. If it involves a competition, we would notify the other school and let them know, which quite honestly isn't, it's a different comparison, but it's really no different than, we've had situations where a wrestler came down with ringworm, or maybe they engaged in a tournament or a dual meet where an opponent had ringworm, and in those situations, we notify the school to let them know so that they can check, go through the proper sort of protocols to disinfect and clean and those types of things, while also self-evaluating whether or not they may have contracted it. So. Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm curious to know what the Missouri High School Activities Association sort of thinks about something like that. But I could certainly see a circumstance where that could be possible, particularly if you have a situation where, say a member of the football team tests positive, and that player had a lot of close contact with his teammates, and now the entire team or a significant member of the team has to self-isolate for 14 days or whatever. Now you're talking about, you can't play at least the next 2 games on your schedule. Whereas a sport like golf, the risk is pretty minimal. I know golf courses have been taking rakes out of the sand traps so that people aren't touching the same rake. You can now, this went into place last year, but you can now putt with the pin in the hole. So nobody has to touch the flag or the pin. So, I mean, that you could conceivably conduct a golf tournament or a golf match where participants are physically distanced from each other the entire time. So that circumstance or that scenario you bring up, I think, is a possibility. It certainly, as it relates to regular season competition, which are things that are determined and contracted, amongst schools. So I could see that for regular season. As it relates to postseason, I don't know what Misha's position would be as it relates to maybe conducting a state championship golf tournament, but not state championship football game. Yeah, so I think right off the bat, there are two things that stand out. First, as it relates to our kids, it's another opportunity to compete for something, to earn recognition for something, to compete for a conference championship or to earn all conference honors. I know one of our struggles in some of our sports, football, for example, comes to mind, is a lot of times you go to these all-state meetings and you advocate for your kids to get all-state recognition. And, another coach from the St. Louis area is talking about, well, my kid earned all conference. He earned all metro area. He earned all these sort of things. And our coaches aren't in a position to be able to say that because we've been independent. So again, just the opportunity to give kids another thing to compete for, to give another opportunity for kids to earn recognition, I think is a positive thing. From the other thing, from an administrative standpoint, as it relates, to our athletic directors and whatnot, to have the consistency in scheduling. It may not seem like much, but I could, as a former building level AD, building the schedules as an independent is hard. It is tough to get teams to play you. And even though we kind of already, played Hickman and Battle and Jeff City anyway, nonetheless, to be able to add Capital City, to make sure we're playing Helias and Smith Cotton and whatnot in all of our sports consistently, it's just going to make scheduling a lot easier. And I think there's a benefit for our fans too. It means more local competitions, more games in the mid-Missouri area that are going to be easier for our fans to attend, assuming there aren't spectator limitations that prohibit them from attending. What our expectations will be as it relates to our athletic teams traveling will be the same as just our normal bus routes. And so there will be spacing on buses. There's effectively, I mean, there's going to have to be sort of a seating chart, if you will, that properly spaces the kids out. And so when you do that, that does, reduce your maximum capacity as it relates to buses. So that is a question, that is a challenge that are among the things we're working through. For most of our programs, it shouldn't be a problem just because their rosters are small enough that it really won't mean any difference for them. But for some of our larger roster programs, our football programs, for example, our cross-country programs, our track and field programs, we're going to have to look at perhaps taking multiple buses or more buses than we have before, just because our seating capacity is not going to be as great as it was because of the need to space out.